at times, life forces us into silence, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy silence of trauma, anxiety, and not being heard or seen. Many of us know what it's like to search for answers, to walk into rooms of experts and still walk out with no relief at all. Listeners, today's guest knows that silence intimately. Welcome back to the Mindful Living Podcast. I'm your host, Sana, as always. And let me share a bit about my guest with all of you. After surviving complex trauma, battling anxiety and panic for years, and facing a dysregulated nervous system, she found herself at a breaking point. Traditional medicine gave her no way forward. But Chinese medicine, yoga, and energy work opened doors she never thought possible. And now, with over 25 years of body work and energy work experience and a thriving wellness business, she helps others find their own path to deep healing. Listeners, this is not just about recovery, it's about reclaiming life, listening to our body's wisdom, and daring to believe in possibilities when the world says there are none. So let's all step into conversation with open minds and open hearts. And of course, listeners, meet my incredible guest, Lori Maher. So, Lori, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really honored to have you here with us.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Laurie, of course, to begin with, I mean, yes, it's disheartening yet so inspiring to see that with all these trials and tribulations,
Mhm.
you have navigated through, you have still come out of it, and now you are helping others with your wisdom, with your experiences, lived experiences, so that they can also find their own path, and they can also realize that there is a possibility for deep healing. So uh, with all these years of trauma and anxiety that left your nervous system in constant overdrive, when you look back now, what do you think was the hardest part of living with that daily dysregulation?
That's a great question. So, I just first want to recognize the fact that I think the majority of the population is struggling with some kind of dysregulation of their nervous system. Um, I am a complex trauma survivor, and I think there are many, many others that are um, dealing with similar things that I dealt with.
Uh-huh,
As a matter of fact, I'm working with lots of people now
uh-huh.
to help them understand that they have the ability to heal themselves. There's so much they can do to rewire their nervous system, right? To rewire their brain, to utilize the universal energy. Um, so I think your question was, I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Yeah, of course. Like, if you rewind all those experiences, what do you think was the hardest part of living with that daily nervous system dysregulation?
Oh my goodness. Um, you know, I it was a level of fear that was scary. Um, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. Nobody could help me. The doctors didn't really know what was wrong. And in Western medicine, they love to just diagnose, right? It's all about a diagnosis, and there's really not any discussion about a root cause or why you have it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I, went from, psychiatrist to psychiatrist, and um none of them could give me an answer. Um and I was not one to take medication. Now that said, I was young, and I was afraid to take medication. I didn't really want to do that. There are times that medication is needed for people, and I completely am on board with that, and I believe that. Um, However, at the time, I was not going to entertain it. I was, I would say I was about, well, I would say that I was living in a constant state of anxiety since a very young age, and I didn't even know it, even through elementary school and middle school and high school. It came to a head, unfortunately, when I was in college. And that's when everything just um, got to a point where I was unable to function, to be
Mm,
honest.
mm.
So, that was a scary time because no one could help me and I had to figure it out on my own.
Uh, I mean, um, I must not say that I completely understand, but that, inability, that, sometimes that feeling of helplessness,
Hmm.
that I can really connect with, because sometimes really it feels so frustrating and um sometimes, kind of wronged that, nobody is maybe intentionally or unintentionally able to hear us or understand us. We are not able to be heard or seen. So I must really appreciate, Lori, that you shared it. This is very bold. And of course, for all of our listeners, I now I want to understand, Lori, are there any misconceptions around trauma? Often we use these words, and I had a very traumatic experience with that person, or in the bus, or while walking, or while working, or while outside. Do you think there are misconceptions around trauma that kind of, um, uh, kind of uh, dusts down the importance of addressing the importance of this word trauma? I mean, I know it's just a yeah.
There are many misconceptions around trauma. I talk to a lot of people who will say, "Oh, yeah, this thing happened to me, but it's not so bad. Other people have it worse," or what they'll ask me, "What is trauma?" And they have really no idea. I think most people identify trauma with being, a big event that happens, whether it's some sort of, abuse as a child, right? Whether it's neglect or sexual abuse as a child. It could be loss of a loved one through death. It could be a natural disaster. It could be a car accident. These big things that stop us in our tracks, right? That are something that is it overloads our nervous system, and it's very clear that it does so.
Mm,
So that's one piece of trauma that I think everybody would agree with. And what's interesting is a lot of people will downplay it and say, "Oh yeah, but I've dealt with it. I'm fine." Um, and come to find out, they really haven't. They've just kind of tried to avoid the feelings around that. Other misconceptions are, what might call the little T's, but over time, it could be a chronic um, trauma, meaning you could be growing up in an environment where you are neglected on a regular basis, where you are not heard, you're not seen, right? Your feelings are not validated. You don't have the support that you need, and you feel that you're on your own and you're in survival. Those chronic feelings growing up in, these families, and let's face it, most families have some kind of dysfunction going on,
mhm,
um, is trauma, because over time that could actually affect your nervous system in a worse way than one big T trauma. So what happens is when we feel like we're in survival, our body goes into sympathetic nervous system response, which is fight or flight.
mhm,
And what happens is a chemical reaction, right? So we have cortisol that's now pumping into our body. These are chemicals, these are hormones, and it overloads the body. And ultimately, it ends up with inflammation in your body. And this is where the issue starts, right?
mm,
And when your body is dysregulated and you are staying there, if you don't find a way to resolve this
mhm,
feeling of being unsafe or not taken care of, um you're stuck there and your body is stuck in that dysregulated state.
mm.
So yes, there are many, many um, misconceptions around trauma.
Yes, yes. And it's just like a cascading effect, if not addressed upon, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But do you feel, Lori, that trauma ever truly leaves the body, or is healing more about building a new relationship with it?
That's a great question. I used to think that years ago, oh, I just have to, get rid of this. I just have to release it, get rid of it. Not so simple. So you're absolutely right. It's about creating a new relationship with it. It's about reintegration in your system. So this is where the education really comes in as well.
Mm.
So I'm a trauma recovery coach now. I got my certification a few years back, which really helped to kind of round out my practice. I've been practicing body work for over 25 years, which is how I started moving this energy in my own system. Um, but through education and learning about trauma, it's very powerful. It's very empowering to the survivor. And, you know, coupling that with the energy work is really I don't even think of a word that can really describe it, but it's paramount because the energy work really helps to move the energy in your energy system. We hold on to these emotions in our body, in our tissues, right? In our bones. It's just inside of us because we haven't learned how to move it or to process it. So it's really doing both. Um, and also, learning for yourself how to work with number one, work with your nervous system,
Mhm.
to learn to recalibrate your nervous system, to balance your nervous system, and to be in a what we call window of tolerance. We can talk more about that if you'd like.
Yeah, yeah, please.
Um, and learn how to work with your energy body.
Hmm.
So those are really, and I'm also going to add to that self care, right? Because survivors typically don't. We take care of everybody else. We forget about
Mhm.
ourselves. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that is legit. That is legit. And this body work that you mentioned, so
Mhm.
um, this is a holistic approach, because uh, I believe this definitely involves the connection between mind, body, and our soul as well. What exactly is this body work, Lori? Like, I personally am very curious to know. I'm very sure our listeners will also be interested.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
So my particular exposure was through Chinese medicine. Um, this was 23 years ago when I first started my journey. And I went to school for acupressure shiatsu therapy. So basically it's the same education that an acupuncturist might receive, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
body work. I don't use needles. So
Mm-hmm.
I learned that was where I first learned about energy. And this is the universal energy that we all have access to. So in Chinese medicine, it's a particular theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are 12 main channels or meridians in the body. And there are many more that are deeper. But in general, we work with these channels and we access the energy through points on the body on these channels to help to balance the energy system.
Mm-hmm.
So this is root cause type of stuff, right? So if someone comes to me and they have a respiratory illness, right? I'm going to be working most likely on their lung channel and other different points that are going to help affect um, many different things, whether I'm boosting their immune system, balancing their respiratory system. There's different approaches through this particular framework.
Mm-hmm.
So this really woke me up to, okay, what is this? What is this energy world that I had no idea existed? right? I mean, I knew on some level in my body and my soul, right? But growing up in in the Western world, it's all they kind of get you away from that, right?
Uh-huh.
So then I found Reiki and I was attuned to Reiki. So I'm now a Reiki master, which is a different way of utilizing the universal energy, right? And I am just a conduit. I hold space for this healing energy to come in and through the client that I'm working with. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm also trained in love light. Um, it's a particular system that works with your spirit. So, this is more quantum healing and it works with your light centers of your spirit. So you're absolutely right. This is a holistic approach that is working on the energy system within the body, the energy system outside of the body, and also educating through the mind and rewiring the mind and the body.
Mm. That's very well explained, Lori. Very well
I
explained.
hope so. It's not easy to explain.
No,
I've been
yeah,
working on it for 20 years.
yeah. I know, I know, and especially in such a short window of time. I know, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was a really good attempt, Lori, in there. And you also mentioned about window of tolerance. What's exactly that? If you can just give a glimpse of that.
So when we're dysregulated,
Mm-hmm.
there are a few different things that could happen. So typically when we are triggered or we're going through a trauma response, something happens in our environment that puts us into a dysregulated state.
Uh-huh.
We're either going to be in fight or flight or freeze or fawn. Okay. So I
Okay.
want you to imagine the fight or flight um, is an area where we are feeling fear, anxiety, overwhelm. We might be shaking and our body is really overstimulated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, especially if you've experienced lots of trauma, we have a really difficult time coming down from that. It could take days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the other reaction or response, no, I'm going to say reaction, is the freeze, where we just kind of break down. We can't really deal with anything. So we check out and you want to get into bed and pull the covers over your head and you can't deal with anything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you choose to shut down. Well, not that you choose. It's just kind of happens because it's
Yeah.
just too overwhelming.
Uh-huh.
So both of these are a dysregulated state. When I say window of tolerance, the window of tolerance is an area where we are peaceful. I like to say to clients, we are born with this feeling. We are born with the feeling of having a regulated nervous system, of being calm, of being able to be joyful and happy and present and have clarity, right? If you are in fight or flight or freeze, you are not in a place of anything being clear or having clarity, or you're not able to really make decisions, right? You're just not in your body. So that window of tolerance is that space of feeling peaceful, of feeling content. And what I teach my clients is we need to be really cognizant of when we feel we're starting to edge up or down away from that center of peace. And when we start to feel our bodies start to get a little regulated, this is when we have to really stop, pay attention, go to our toolbox, pull out some tips and tools to help us to get back to balance and to get back to that peaceful state that is our birthright.
Hmm. It's like a stop sign or pause sign, pause,
Yes.
then you rethink and then go to your toolbox. I really like that, how you put the words in there. Um,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
It's like, it's like removing those blockages, the physical, the mental blockages in there so that, you can embrace the clarity in there. So yeah, that really makes sense.
That's right.
Mm.
That's right. And it's practice, you know?
Yeah, agree.
Um, just like yoga is a practice and meditation is a practice, right?
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. And talking about the tools and the toolbox, and as you mentioned, yoga and meditation, you have also credited Chinese medicine as a turning point in your journey. And when actually you were mentioning about it, and I said blockages, um, I've had conversations about acupuncture, how it kind of addresses the blockages, those key points or the locks in there, how they're kind of, tangled with each other. So, when did this approach, or what did this approach offer you that Western medicine didn't?
Mm. So when I was 30, um, leading up to when I was 30, I had was diagnosed with, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, um, and ended up having a couple of traumatic incidents happen. When I turned 30, I got ill. I got mono or Epstein-Barr virus.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, as a survivor typically does, I didn't really slow down because I thought, oh, I'll be fine. I have to push through. I was a single mother at the time. And I got very, very sick. I was home and had n- I had nothing left. I couldn't get out of bed. I would wake up in the morning and I would, within an hour, be so exhausted I would go back to bed. And this was exhaustion. This wasn't depression. This was exhaustion. And nobody could help me. I found a woman who did acupressure and taught yoga at the time, and she said that she believed she could help me. And I said, okay, I'll do whatever it takes. So I started going for acupressure therapy, which is what I do.
Okay.
And um, it took about 8 to 9 months, but I would say I was about 80% better after that period of time. And I could tell as soon as I started with her that things started waking up in my body. My energy started to move. The blockages were being released. Um, she was also doing Reiki with me, and the energy that I started to realize was available to me
Mm-hmm.
was the key.
Mm.
Absolutely the key.
Mm. That's good to know, Lauren. Good to know. And what were there any moments, when you doubted it could work, or like even felt resistance to stepping, like, outside the box or the conventional treatment, because uh, what we see around us, and kind of we are made to feel that this is the only available solution, but then immediately we come across a different solution, which which kind of um, uh, has been proven that yes, this definitely works. Sometimes our inner self kind of cross questions or becomes a skeptic. So did you feel these kind of moments in there when you first began with the Reiki, the acupuncture?
It's interesting because, yes, at first I was like, I don't know what this is. I was a little scared of it. Um, and I just want to preface this with, we all approach life
Mhm.
with our glasses on, that our stories are what we've been taught, our exposure to things. And I think as human beings, we tend to resist, change or new ideas, or if what we believe works is what has worked always for us in the past.
Mhm.
And yes, there were many times that, well, let me put it this way. I never questioned if the work that I was doing was having a positive effect, because I knew it was. I knew in every cell of my body that this is what was helping me.
Mm.
What what did take me a little while was to stop looking to Western medicine for the answers, because I would still go and I would still look and say, well, what specialist could I go to now? And maybe they could help me. Maybe they had some insight or um and I did that for a while.
Mhm.
And what I've come to realize, and it took me, a while, but I've come to realize that I have everything inside of me to heal. I have everything inside of me to empower myself to find the answer if I don't know what the answer is. And I help others to hopefully come to that conclusion themselves.
Oh, that's really inspiring to know, Lori. That's really inspiring to know. I think I imagine for many listeners, um, when they look at something through a different lens, especially healing, like Chinese medicine, it may feel unfamiliar or maybe intimidating, but through you, I mean, your honesty about resistance, it really bridges that gap here. Um, so, of
Thank
course,
you.
that's good to know. And I know we are short on time, but I'm so much vested in this. So, uh, talking about energy work, Laurie, it's one of those areas that can feel deeply transformative for some, but also abstract.
Mhm.
How do you explain it to people who say that this isn't real science or this is pseudoscience?
Well, I would say Chinese medicine has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Um, Yoga has been around for just as long, right?
Uh-huh.
Western medicine started much, much later.
Yeah. Okay.
um, and I think if you start listening to your intuition and you really truly um, acknowledge what really helps you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that people will find the answers themselves.
Definitely. Definitely. I believe the real essence is, having that agency or that sovereignty, uh,
Mhm.
because you're not influenced or dictated or, forced upon by anything or anyone. You still have that agency to decide what works for you or what doesn't. Of course, with
That's right.
guidance and direction from the
That's
people
right.
who have lived through the similar experiences.
It kind of amazes me because I mean I was this way too, but constantly looking outside of ourselves for the answers, right?
Yeah.
Nobody else knows anything about you. You are the expert on yourself, right?
Yeah.
So even when I'm talking to my clients and I'm giving them all these different options, try this, try that, you only know what works for you. When I teach my yoga classes, you know what works for you while you're on your mat. If something doesn't feel good, if something feels uncomfortable in your body, then you stop and you don't do it, right? It's learning to trust yourself again. And unfortunately, through trauma, we learn to not trust ourselves, right?
Mm.
I could get into a very long conversation about that, but trauma survivors are always trying to make everything okay around them, to find some kind of way to control something in their environment. So we forget about ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when we find our way back to ourselves and we really truly listen to every single thing that we need, and we really truly take care of every need that we have, and we become our parent to ourselves, maybe that we never had in our life,
Absolutely.
everything changes. Everything changes.
That's beautifully said, Laurie.
Thank you.
And did you still experience anxiety or trauma response, after so many years of practice? Or has your healing brought you to a place of steadiness?
Um, I am much more steady than I ever
Very good.
have been. much more steady. Do I get triggered still? Yes, very rarely. Um, and anytime we get triggered, that is a sign that there is still some inner wound, some inner core wound that we still have to sort of explore and work with. Um, but, you know, all of this practice has brought me to a place of much more ease in my life. And I practice every day, don't get me wrong, right? I always practice. And I go for acupuncture once a week. And I teach, 3 to 4 yoga classes a week, and I'm always doing this work. Um, but I'm really so grateful and so thankful that I am living a life that I love, and I understand my nervous system, and I'm friends with my nervous system now. And yeah, I'm just very grateful that I have an understanding of how to heal myself.
I really love that. Two lines there. Uh, I am friends with my nervous system, and I am really loving living my life. I think it's not toxic positivity, but it's actually practical hope in there. And I think the the better part of here is, that even healers, they are still human, and it's kind of normalizing the ongoing process, which makes healing feel less like, just a goal or a finish line, and more like a practice, like a continuous process in there. So, yeah.
That's right. It is a practice. It's not the finish line. And really, when there really isn't a finish line, right? Like, it's constant evolution, constant growth, constant raising our vibration.
Of course.
Um, so yeah, my favorite word I think might be practice.
Wow. Super, super, Lori. And if our listeners, they would like to reach out to you and, get access to the wonderful resources and wisdom that you're offering, what will be the best way?
Yes. So my email is Lori, Lori, dot state of grace, STATEOFGRACE at Gmail. My website is stateofgracewellness.com. I am on Instagram and Facebook. You'll find me State of Grace Wellness. And I would be thrilled to talk to anybody. We can set up a call. We can figure out what's best for you. I do work remotely. Um, and I'm currently creating some online programs as well. So that's coming.
That's really great to know. And congratulations to you, Laurie, for that. And of course, for all of your listeners, I'll make sure that all the links, the details are there in the show notes for you for easy reference. And um, Laurie, I really should thank you enough for showing us that trauma doesn't have to define the rest of our lives, but and anxiety doesn't have to be the only language our bodies speak. Healing is possible, even if it is different for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, Sana.
Thank you. Thank you, Laurie. And thank you to all my beautiful, mindful listeners in there. Wherever you are on your journey, I hope may you take one step today, however it is small, that brings you closer to peace. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep listening to your inner wisdom. This is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.